everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
So today we're all about cracking the code of self-improvement.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be doing it with Atomic Habits by James Clear.
Awesome.
Now, if you're the kind of person who loves to level up in life,
Yeah.
buckle up because we're about to uncover some seriously cool stuff.
Okay.
Like, we'll be exploring the surprising link between your identity and the habits you form.
Okay.
And it's not just about doing, it's about being.
That's your point, yeah.
Plus, we'll tackle why that frustrating valley of disappointment is actually a good sign.
Okay.
And how even tiny changes can snowball into massive results.
Yeah.
Thanks to the power of compounding.
Right.
Oh, and of course, we'll arm you with practical strategies for ditching those bad habits.
Yeah.
And building the ones that will truly transform your life.
All right. I like it.
Whew.
What's so captivating about Atomic Habits is that it goes way beyond just a simple list of do's and don'ts.
Oh, for sure.
It's like a backstage pass to your brain, revealing the science behind how those automatic behaviors we call habits actually form.
It really is a fascinating look under the hood, isn't it?
It is.
And Clear kicks things off with this mind-blowing concept of tiny gains.
Okay.
The idea that small, consistent improvements can compound over time.
So think of it like investing.
Okay.
If you consistently put away a little bit of money, even if it seems insignificant at first,
Yeah.
those small amounts can grow into a substantial nest egg over time, right?
Right.
Well, Clear argues that this same principle applies to our habits.
Okay.
Those seemingly insignificant daily choices, like choosing a salad over fries,
Okay.
or taking the stairs instead of the elevator, they all add up, and over time, they can have a dramatic impact on your health,
Wow.
your relationships, your career, basically every aspect of your life.
He uses a really powerful visual to drive this point home.
Oh, yeah.
He says if you get just 1% better each day for a year, you'll end up almost 38 times better by the end of it.
Wow, that's wild.
Now flip that around.
Okay.
A 1% decline each day, and you're practically back to zero.
Oh, geez.
It's a stark reminder that those tiny actions we take every single day,
Yeah.
they really matter.
They absolutely do.
So,
And that brings us to another pivotal takeaway from the book.
okay.
The 4 stages of habit formation.
Right.
Clear breaks down this process into 4 distinct phrases.
Okay.
Cue, craving response, and reward.
Got it.
This framework helps us understand the chain reaction
Okay.
that drives our habitual behavior.
You know what really clicked for me was the example he gave of our prehistoric ancestors.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine them roaming around constantly scanning for cues.
Okay.
That signaled rewards like food, water, or potential mate.
Yeah.
Their survival depended on recognizing these patterns and responding effectively.
It's fascinating how those ancient instincts still influence us today, isn't it?
Totally.
While we're not hunting for our next meal in the wilderness,
Yeah.
our brains are still hardwired to seek out cues that promise reward.
Oh, for sure.
It's just that those rewards have evolved a bit.
Right.
We're chasing that promotion at work,
Okay.
those likes on social media,
Yeah.
or that feeling of accomplishment after a tough workout.
Yeah, it's like our brains are constantly on the lookout for those dopamine hits, right?
Exactly.
So,
And the key takeaway here is that understanding this 4-step cycle is crucial for changing our habits.
okay.
Once you recognize those triggers and cravings that drive your actions,
Yeah.
you can start to intentionally shape your responses
Okay.
and ultimately the rewards you receive.
So you essentially gain control over the autopilot mode of your brain.
Precisely.
Okay, so it's kind of like hacking the system, wouldn't you say?
Precisely. Now, here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Cleary introduces this powerful idea that our habits are deeply intertwined with our identity.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just about doing, it's about being.
Okay.
Your habits shape your identity, and your identity shapes your habits. It's a continuous feedback loop.
I think this is something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
You know, you set a goal to exercise more, but if you don't see yourself as an athletic person or a runner,
Right.
it's so much harder to stick with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole.
Right.
Cleary uses a really compelling example to illustrate this point.
Okay.
He contrasts identifying as a voter versus simply voting.
Okay.
People who see themselves as voters, who believe that voting is a fundamental part of who they are far more likely to show up at the polls.
Interesting.
It's because their actions are in alignment with their core identity.
Right.
And this principle applies to any habit we want to build.
So let me see if I got this right.
Yeah.
If I want to become a writer, it's not enough to just say, I want to write a book.
Right.
I actually need to start seeing myself as a writer.
Yeah.
Even if I haven't published a single word yet.
You got it. It's about shifting your mindset and aligning your actions with your desired identity.
Okay.
When you start to believe you're a writer, you're more likely to make choices that support that identity.
Okay.
Like carving out time to write, seeking out feedback, and embracing the challenges that come with the craft. You create this powerful feedback loop that reinforces the habit.
Wow.
It's not just about writing. It's about becoming a writer.
That's a really powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
And it makes me wonder how much of our behavior is influenced by our surroundings.
Oh, that's a good question.
Because Clear also dives into the impact of environment.
Right? He certainly does.
Okay.
He highlights this concept called Lewin's equation,
Okay.
which states that behavior is a function of the person and their environment.
Right.
It's often represented as B's FFPE.
Okay.
Essentially, it means that our actions are influenced by both our internal traits and the external forces around us.
Right. So it's not just about willpower or motivation.
Right.
It's about recognizing that our surroundings are constantly bombarding us with cues, making certain behaviors more or less likely.
And Clear gives some really fascinating examples of this in the book.
Oh, yeah.
For instance, he talks about how the Japanese railway system implemented this point-and-call method, where conductors verbally confirm each action they take. This simple change drastically reduced errors.
Wow.
Proving that even subtle environmental cues can have a big impact on behavior.
There's also that example of redesigning workspaces to minimize wasted motion, which was a key principle behind the success of Japanese manufacturing.
Absolutely.
It's about optimizing your environment for efficiency and effectiveness.
Exactly.
And let's not forget that intriguing study about how providing nicer soap in Pakistan significantly increased hand washing rates.
Right.
It highlights the power of making a desired behavior more appealing simply by tweaking the environment.
Absolutely.
It's like we have this hidden superpower to shape our behavior. Yeah.
By consciously designing our surroundings, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And that's where Clear's 4 laws of behavior change come into play.
Okay, let's dive into that.
He provides this practical framework for building better habits by making them obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying.
Got it.
It's like having a blueprint for habit transformation.
Okay, I am ready to unlock those secret strategies.
All right.
Let's start with the first law. Make it obvious.
Okay.
What are some actionable ways we can make those desired habits stand out?
One incredibly effective technique is habit stacking.
Okay.
The idea is to link your new habit to an existing one.
Right.
For example, you might say, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 5 minutes.
Okay.
You're essentially piggybacking on the automaticity of an existing habit to trigger the new one.
Right.
It's like creating a seamless chain reaction in your daily routine.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like setting up a domino effect for good habits.
What about those implementation intentions Clear talks about?
Yeah.
Are those similar to habit stacking?
They are, but they take habit stacking a step further by adding a specific time and location to your plan.
Got it.
So instead of just saying, I'll meditate more, you say, I'll meditate for 10 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room.
Okay.
By being super specific, you eliminate any guesswork and reduce the chance of procrastination. It's like programming your internal GPS for success.
It sounds like having a pre-programmed autopilot for your habits. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've made it obvious.
Okay.
Now, how do we make it attractive?
Yeah.
Because let's be real, some habits like eating our vegetables or doing our taxes aren't exactly thrilling.
That's where Clear's ingenuity really shines.
Okay.
He suggests this brilliant strategy called temptation bundling.
Okay.
Which involves pairing an action you want to do with an action you need to do. It's about leveraging your brain's natural desire for pleasure.
Right.
For example, you might only allow yourself to watch your favorite TV show while you're on the treadmill.
This clever way to outsmart your inner couch potato.
Exactly.
He also talks about the importance of joining a culture.
Yeah.
Where your desired behavior is the norm.
Right.
Okay.
Surrounding yourself with people who already embody the habits you want to build can have a powerful influence on your own behavior.
For sure.
It's like tapping into the power of social momentum. Yeah. If everyone around you is hitting the gym, eating healthy, or reading regularly, it becomes much easier to adopt those behaviors yourself.
Yeah.
It's all about finding your tribe and leveraging social norms to your advantage.
This makes me think about those running clubs or book clubs people join.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not just about the activity itself. It's about finding that sense of community and support that makes it easier to stick with it.
Exactly. Now let's move on to the third law.
Okay.
Make it easy.
Okay.
This one is all about reducing friction and making your desired habit as effortless as possible.
I think this one resonates with everyone because we're all way more likely to follow through with something if it doesn't require a ton of effort up front.
For sure.
It's like that saying, work smarter, not harder, right?
Absolutely. And one of Claire's most popular strategies for making habits easier is the 2-minute rule.
Oh, I've heard of this one.
Yeah.
It's brilliant in its simplicity.
It is.
You essentially break down your habit into a 2-minute version.
Right.
That's super easy to start.
You got it. So instead of trying to run a marathon on day 1, you might just commit to putting on your running shoes.
Yeah.
Or if you want to write a book,
you
might simply start by writing 1 sentence.
Right.
The key is to make that initial step so ridiculously easy that you can't say no.
It's like tricking yourself into building momentum, isn't it?
It is.
And once you've started, you're much more likely to keep going. Like that old saying, well begun is half done.
Exactly. He also talks about reducing friction.
Okay.
By setting up your environment for success. For example, laying out your workout clothes the night before.
Right.
Or prepping healthy meals in advance.
Yeah.
It's about anticipating those potential obstacles.
Okay.
And removing them before they can derail your good intentions.
It's all about those little hacks that make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Okay, we've made our desired habit obvious, attractive, and easy.
Okay.
What's the final ingredient to lock it in and make it stick?
That brings us to the fourth and final law.
Okay.
Make it satisfying.
Right.
This is all about ensuring that your habit delivers some sort of immediate reward.
Got it.
Our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure those good habits feel good.
Because let's be honest, if a habit doesn't feel rewarding in some way, we're much less likely to repeat it, right?
Right.
We humans are creatures of instant gratification, even if we don't like to admit it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where things can get tricky.
Okay.
Because we live in a delayed return environment.
Okay.
Many of the benefits of our actions, like weight loss, financial savings, or career advancement, take time to materialize.
It's true. We have to learn to delay gratification.
Right.
But that's not always easy.
That's why it's crucial to find ways to reward ourselves in the short term.
Okay.
Clear suggests using tactics like reward systems, habit tracking, and finding ways to genuinely enjoy the process itself.
You know, I love the example he gives of the couple who wanted to save for a trip to Europe.
Oh, yeah.
They created a separate savings account specifically for that purpose.
Okay.
And every time they skipped eating out, they'd transfer $50 to that account.
I'd say.
It created this visual representation of their progress.
Oh, wow.
And made saving money feel more tangible and exciting.
That's a fantastic example of making a habit more satisfying.
Right.
It's about finding creative ways to tap into that immediate reward system while keeping your eye on the long-term prize.
No, I know we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
But there's one more concept I want to touch on before we move on.
Okay.
Claire talks about this idea of the Goldilocks rule.
Yeah.
And finding the right challenge.
Okay.
Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Of course.
Okay.
This is where things get really nuanced.
Right.
Claire argues that for a habit to stick, it needs to be just the right level of difficulty.
Okay.
Not too hard, not too easy.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Where you're challenged enough to stay engaged.
Okay.
But not so overwhelmed that you give up.
It's like finding that perfect balance between pushing yourself and setting realistic expectations, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
And when we hit that Goldilocks zone, we're more likely to enter a flow state.
Oh, yeah.
A state of complete absorption in the task in hand.
Okay.
Time seems to melt away. And we become fully immersed in the activity.
Oh, I've definitely experienced that before.
Yeah.
Like when you're working on a challenging puzzle or completely lost in a good book, the hours just fly by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that feeling of flow is incredibly rewarding and motivating.
It is.
It's one of the reasons why games and hobbies can be so addictive.
For sure.
They provide that perfect blend of challenge and enjoyment.
So if we want to stay motivated and avoid getting bored or discouraged, we need to constantly find ways to challenge ourselves and keep things interesting, right?
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where effort meets enjoyment.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
And on that note,
okay,
I think it's a good place to pause.
Okay.
And give you a moment to reflect on everything we've covered so far.
This has been such an insightful exploration of the first part of Atomic Habit.
It has.
We've unpacked the power of tiny gains. Those 4 stages of habit formation, the fascinating link between our habits and our identity, the influence of our environment, and the 4 laws for making habits stick.
I like it.
It's amazing how much there is to learn about these seemingly simple, everyday actions.
It really is.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
We have.
In the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll delve into those pesky bad habits.
Oh.
And explore some strategies for breaking free from their grasp.
Sounds good.
We'll also uncover some inspiring stories and practical tips for staying motivated on your habit-building journey.
I can't wait.
Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll continue our exploration of atomic habits.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive into atomic habits. I'm sure many of you are wondering how to tackle those bad habits that just seem to linger.
You read my mind. We've all got those habits we wish we could just hit the delete button on.
Right.
So how do we break free from those unwanted behaviors?
Well, Clear provides a really insightful approach to breaking bad habits. That mirrors those 4 laws of behavior change we discussed earlier.
Okay.
It's all about making those unwanted behaviors invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying.
Okay.
Essentially, we're flipping the script on those bad habits, making them less appealing and harder to indulge in.
Okay. I like where this is going. Let's break it down, starting with make it invisible.
All right.
How do we make those tempting cues disappear?
One strategy that's often very effective is reducing exposure.
Okay.
Think about it. If you're constantly bombarded with reminders of your bad habit,
Right.
it's going to be that much harder to resist.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to cut back on social media, for example,
Okay.
you might delete the apps from your phone or log out of your accounts.
Right.
The idea is to make it less convenient to access those tempting platforms.
I can definitely see how that would help.
Yeah.
It's like putting those tempting snacks out of sight in the pantry.
Right.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not just about physically removing those triggers,
Right.
but also about shifting our mindset. Clear reminds us that our thoughts and beliefs play a powerful role in shaping our actions.
So instead of viewing a healthy habit as a chore, we can try to reframe it as an opportunity, right?
Exactly.
Like shifting from, oh, I have to go to the gym,
Right.
to I get to move my body and boost my energy.
That's a fantastic example of reframing by focusing on the positive aspects of a desired behavior.
Right.
We can make it more appealing and less like an obligation.
Okay, so we've reduced exposure and reframed our mindset.
Okay.
What about making those bad habits less attractive?
This is where we get a little cuff on ourselves.
Okay.
One way to make a bad habit unattractive is to really highlight those negative consequences.
Okay.
It's like giving yourself a dose of reality.
Yeah.
So you might remind yourself of the long-term health risks associated with smoking.
Okay.
Or the financial strain of excessive spending.
Right.
It's about connecting those unwanted behaviors with their undesirable outcomes.
It's about facing those consequences head on instead of sweeping them under the rug, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
And sometimes it's helpful to find a healthier substitute for that bad habit.
Oh, okay.
If you're trying to quit sugary drinks, for example, you might switch to sparkling water with a squeeze of lemon. It's about satisfying that craving in a way that aligns with your goals.
I think this is a great strategy because it's not just about deprivation.
Right.
It's about finding alternatives that you actually enjoy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, the third strategy, make it difficult, is pretty straightforward.
Okay.
It's all about creating friction or obstacles that make it harder to engage in that unwanted behavior.
Right. Like putting your phone in another room to reduce distractions.
Well, exactly.
Or setting up parental controls to limit screen time.
Those are great examples. I've even heard of people freezing their credit cards in a block of ice
Oh, wow.
to prevent impulse purchases. Now, that's commitment.
That's next level habit hacking right there. I love it. Okay, so we've made those bad habits invisible, unattractive, and difficult.
Okay.
What's the final step in this process of breaking free?
The final strategy is make it unsatisfying.
Mm.
This is all about removing the rewards associated with that bad habit.
Right.
Remember, our brains are wired to seek pleasure, so we need to disrupt that reward cycle.
This is where those habit contracts Claire talks about come in handy, right?
Exactly.
You basically create a system of consequences for engaging in that unwanted behavior.
Exactly. This could involve having to pay a friend a certain amount of money every time you slip up.
Right.
Or committing to doing a chore you absolutely hate.
Right.
It's about making those negative consequences immediate and tangible.
So we're basically increasing the immediate pain associated with that bad habit.
Right.
To make it less appealing. It's like Pavlov's dog in reverse, right?
Yeah, got it. We're rewiring those associations in our brains.
This is all starting to make so much sense, as we're talking about all these strategies for building good habits and breaking bad ones.
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to one of the most fascinating stories Clear shares in the book.
Oh, yeah.
It's the story of the Polgar sisters.
Oh, yes. The Hungarian chess prodigies.
Yeah.
Their story is a testament to the power of deliberate practice and the profound impact of our environment on skill development.
Right.
These sisters were practically raised in a chess-obsessed world.
It's crazy.
Their father, Laszlo Polgar, firmly believed that genius could be cultivated through focused effort. And he designed their entire lives around this belief.
Their home was like a chess sanctuary filled with books and boards.
Yeah.
And they played constantly honing their skills through relentless practice and competition.
That's right.
It's amazing to think that their father essentially set out to engineer 3 chess grandmasters and actually succeeded.
It really speaks to the idea that our environment plays a significant role in shaping our habits.
For sure.
And ultimately, our destinies. If you're surrounded by people who value a certain behavior, whether it's playing chess reading or pursuing a particular career path, it becomes that much more likely that you'll adopt those behaviors as well.
It highlights the power of social norms and how they can influence our choices even from a very young age.
Absolutely. Another interesting concept Clear discusses is the importance of finding a game where the odds are in your favor.
Oh, okay.
He argues that we're more likely to succeed and stick with habits that align with our natural abilities and interests.
Right.
It's about playing to our strengths and finding activities that feel intrinsically rewarding.
That makes perfect sense. It's like choosing to play a sport
Right.
or pursue a career that leverages your strengths.
Exactly.
Rather than constantly battling uphill against your weaknesses.
He uses the example of Michael Phelps, the Olympic swimmer.
Okay.
Phelps had a physique that was practically designed for swimming.
Right.
His long torso and short legs gave him a natural advantage in the pool.
But it wasn't just his physical attributes that propelled him to greatness, was it?
Right. Phelps combined his natural talent with an incredible work ethic and an unwavering dedication to his craft.
Yeah.
Clear emphasizes that talent alone isn't enough.
Okay.
We also need to put in the effort to develop our skills and maximize our potential.
It's like that saying, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finding that sweet spot where your passion, talent, and effort intersect is where the magic happens.
Okay, we've talked about finding the right challenge and putting in the effort.
Right.
But what about staying motivated? Because let's be real, we all hit those slumps where it's hard to stay on track.
For sure.
What are some strategies for navigating those inevitable dips in motivation?
Well, Clear reminds us of the importance of making our habits satisfying.
Okay.
Remember, our brains are wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain.
Right.
So how do we make those hard-earned victories more rewarding?
It's all about finding ways to celebrate those wins, both big and small, right?
Exactly.
Like tracking our progress, giving ourselves a little pat on the back.
Yeah.
Or even sharing our achievements with friends or family who will cheer us on.
You got it.
Yeah.
Tracking our progress is especially powerful.
Okay.
Because it provides that visual feedback that can be incredibly motivating.
Right.
It's so satisfying to see those check marks on a habit tracker or watch those numbers on the scale go down.
Yeah.
It creates a sense of accomplishment and reinforces our commitment to the habit.
I know for me, I'm much more likely to stick with a habit if I can see that I'm actually making progress.
Right.
It helps me stay motivated and focused on the long game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let's not underestimate the power of celebrating those wins, even the seemingly small ones.
Right.
It's about acknowledging our efforts and giving ourselves permission to feel good about the progress we're making.
Okay.
Sometimes it's as simple as taking a moment to savor that feeling of accomplishment after a workout, or allowing ourselves to enjoy a healthy meal without guilt.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and encouragement we'd offer a good friend, right?
Exactly.
Celebrating those milestones, big or small, helps us stay positive and motivated on our journey.
Precisely. And finally, one of the most powerful strategies for staying motivated is having an accountability partner.
Right.
Someone who can cheer you on, keep you on track, and offer support during those inevitable setbacks.
Yeah.
It's like having a built-in support system for your habit-building journey.
There's something about knowing that someone else is in your corner rooting for your success.
Well,
Can make all the difference when those doubts and temptations start to creep in.
it's true. It's not just about having someone to crack the whip,
Yeah.
although that can be helpful at times.
Right?
It's more about having someone who understands your goals, celebrates your wins, and offers encouragement when you stumble.
Right.
It's about creating a partnership for success.
Now that we've explored some strategies for breaking bad habits and staying motivated, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on some of the most common mistakes people make when trying to build better habits. What are some of the pitfalls we should be aware of?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes people make is trying to change too much at once.
Right.
It's tempting to overhaul our entire lives overnight, but that's rarely sustainable. We get caught up in that initial burst of enthusiasm and try to implement a dozen new habits all at once.
Yeah.
But then life gets in the way, our willpower gets depleted.
Oh, yeah.
And we end up feeling overwhelmed and discouraged.
It's like going on one of those crash diets. It might work in the short term.
Exactly.
But it's not a long-term solution for sustainable weight loss.
Exactly. Clear emphasizes the importance of starting small and focusing on building one habit at a time.
Okay.
It's about mastering the fundamentals before moving on to more complex routines. Once that habit is firmly established, you can move on to the next one.
Yeah.
It's like building a house brick by brick.
Yeah.
You need a solid foundation before you can add those extra floors and fancy features.
It's about those tiny gains we talked about earlier. Small changes consistently applied lead to big results over time.
Another mistake people often make
Okay.
is getting too fixated on the outcome
Yeah.
rather than the process. It's easy to get caught up in reaching that specific goal.
Right.
Whether it's losing a certain amount of weight, hitting a sales target, or finishing a major project. But if we're not enjoying the journey itself, it's going to be much harder to stay motivated and see those efforts through to the end.
This makes me think about those people who hate going to the gym but force themselves to go every day just to reach their weight loss goals. It's probably not going to be sustainable in the long run.
Right.
Because they're not finding any joy or satisfaction in the process itself.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's like dragging yourself through a workout that feels like punishment.
Yeah.
Clear stresses the importance of finding ways to make the process itself enjoyable.
Okay.
If you hate running, maybe try swimming, dancing, or hiking instead.
Right.
It's about finding an activity that brings you joy and that you can look forward to doing.
Yeah.
Even on those days when motivation is low.
It's about making it part of your life, not just another item to check off your to-do list.
And finally, another common mistake is giving up too soon.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Building new habits takes time and effort.
For sure.
There will be setbacks and slip-ups along the way.
Yeah.
That's just part of the process.
It's so easy to get discouraged when we don't see immediate results.
Right.
Or when we stumble and fall back into old patterns.
Yeah.
But that's when it's most important to be patient with ourselves.
Exactly.
And focus on progress, not perfection.
Absolutely. We need to remember that building lasting habits is a journey, not a destination. It's about consistently making small improvements and learning from those inevitable stumbles along the way. Even a small step in the right direction is still a step forward.
It's like learning to ride a bike. You're going to fall a few times before you find your balance.
Right.
But with practice and persistence, you'll eventually be cruising down the street with confidence.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of persistence, I think that brings us to our final key takeaway from Atomic Habits.
I'm ready to hear it. What's the secret sauce for building those atomic habits that will transform our lives?
The real secret is that there is no secret.
Okay.
It all comes down to embracing those tiny changes, those seemingly insignificant 1% improvements that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that those small, consistent actions repeated over time can create remarkable results.
So it's not about finding some magic formula or quick fix.
Right.
It's about trusting the process and staying committed to those small, consistent efforts.
You got it.
Okay.
Like that famous quote from Lao Tzu.
Yeah.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I love that. And Atomic Habits is all about breaking down that seemingly daunting journey into manageable steps, right?
Yeah.
It's about empowering us to believe that we can create lasting change by focusing on those small atomic actions.
It really is. And what's so powerful about Clear's approach is that it shifts our focus from achieving specific outcomes to becoming the type of person who achieves those outcomes.
Right.
It's not just about losing weight. It's about becoming a healthier person.
Right.
It's not just about writing a book. It's about becoming a writer.
This reminds me of something we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
The idea that our habits are essentially votes for the type of person we want to become.
That's a brilliant way to think about it.
Yeah.
And as we accumulate those votes, we start to see real change in our lives.
It's like we're building momentum towards becoming the best version of ourselves.
Exactly. And remember that other key takeaway we discussed.
Yeah.
The idea that we can design our environment to support our habits.
Oh, for sure.
It's like creating a world where those positive choices
Right.
become the path of least resistance.
It's so empowering to realize that we have more control over our behavior than we often give ourselves credit for.
Absolutely. By making those small tweaks to our surroundings, we can make good habits easier to adopt and those bad habits harder to indulge in.
Right.
It's like setting ourselves up for success.
This has been such an inspiring deep dive.
It has been.
Atomic Habits is packed with so many practical strategies and insights that can help us create positive change in our lives.
I couldn't agree more. It's a must-read for anyone who's serious about leveling up their life and reaching their full potential.
Well, dear listener, we've reached the end of our deep dive into Atomic Habits.
That's right.
But the real journey begins now.
Yeah.
It's time to take all this knowledge and put it into action.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we have one final thought-provoking question for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
What's one small habit you can start building today to make a positive impact on your life? It'd be as simple as drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. Taking a 5-minute walk during your lunch break, or reading a page of a book before bed.
It's about identifying that one tiny change, that one atomic habit that will set you on the path toward becoming the person you aspire to be.
Remember, even the smallest actions repeated consistently can lead to remarkable transformations.
So go out there and start building those atomic habits. We can't wait to hear about your successes. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep learning.